Detective Sama gripped his flashlight, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness of the abandoned building. Dust motes danced in the air, thick with the smell of decay and something colder, something unwelcoming. Murder in a haunted house, Layla muttered, her voice tight with apprehension. Just another Tuesday night. Sama offered a wry smile, though he couldn't shake the unease that prickled at the back of his neck. The rumors surrounding this place were the stuff of local legend, whispers of a gruesome murder-suicide years ago, of restless spirits, and of those who ventured in never returning quite the same. As they moved deeper into the building, the air grew heavy, making it difficult to breathe. A door slammed shut behind them, the sound echoing through the empty hall like a scream. Layla spun around, her hand instinctively reaching for her weapon. "What was that?" she whispered, her eyes wide. Sama shook his head, his pulse quickening. "Just the wind, let's keep moving." The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. They reached a room at the end of a long hallway, the door slightly ajar. A chill wind seemed to emanate from it, carrying a low, mournful whisper that sent shivers down their spines.
Samer pushed the door open, and a wave of icy air washed over them, carrying the stench of decay and the metallic tang of blood. The room was dimly lit by a single dusty window. A rocking chair swayed gently in the breeze, its shadow stretching out like a grasping hand.
As their eyes adjusted to the gloom, they saw it. A bloodstain, large and dark, staining the wooden floor. It was as if the very walls were weeping with the memory of a violence long past.
Layla's breath caught in her throat. "This is where it happened," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "The murder."
Samer nodded grimly, crouching down to examine the bloodstain. As he did, he felt a cold hand on his shoulder and whirled around, his heart pounding. But there was nothing there, only the empty room and the whispering shadows.
Suddenly the room seemed to come alive around them. The rocking chair began to rock violently, its creaking echoing through the silence. A cold wind whipped through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness.
Layla cried out as something brushed past her, its touch icy and insubstantial. Then just as quickly as it began, it stopped. The rocking chair stilled, the wind died down, and an eerie silence descended upon the room.
Fumbling for their flashlights, Sama and Layla struggled to calm their racing hearts.
"What was that?" Layla whispered, her voice trembling. "Did you see anything?"
Samer shook his head, his mind reeling. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone, that something unseen was watching them, toying with them. He had seen his fair share of crime scenes, but there was something deeply unsettling about this place, something that defied rational explanation. They stumbled out of the room, their flashlights flickering back to life.
The hallway outside seemed to stretch endlessly before them, the doors on either side appearing and disappearing in the shifting shadows.
They tried to retrace their steps to find their way back to the entrance, but the layout of the building seemed to change with every turn.
Panic began to gnaw at the edges of Samer's composure.
He had heard stories of places like this, places where reality blurred and the line between the living and the dead became perilously thin.
Was it the building itself playing tricks on them, or was something more sinister at play?
They pressed on, their footsteps echoing hollowly in the silence.
The air grew colder, and the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a chorus of tormented souls.
They were lost, hopelessly lost in a labyrinth of shadows and fear.
"We're going in circles, we're trapped."
Samer's heart sank. He knew she was right.
The building had them now, had drawn them into its web of darkness and despair.
He could feel its presence closing in on them, suffocating them with its cold, malevolent energy.
The air shimmered before them, and a figure coalesced out of the shadows.
It was the ghost of the murderer, its eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light.
It reached out towards them, its hand a skeletal claw.
Samer and Layla backed away, their hearts pounding in their chests.
They were trapped in a nightmare, a waking horror from which there seemed to be no escape.
The ghostly figure lunged, its touch sending shards of ice through Samer's veins.
He stumbled back, his hand instinctively reaching for his gun, but it was gone.
His weapon, along with Layla's, had vanished.
The ghost advanced, its laughter echoing through the halls, a chilling sound that spoke of madness and death.
Layla screamed and covered her ears, her eyes wide with terror.
Samer felt a surge of protectiveness, but he knew they were both utterly helpless.
This wasn't a case they could solve. This was something else entirely. Something ancient and evil that defied all logic and reason.
They were at the mercy of the shadows now, lost in a place where time had no meaning and the dead walked among the living.
Sama and Layla found themselves huddled in a corner, the ghostly figure circling them like a predator.
Its laughter echoed around them, a symphony of madness and despair.
The air grew thick with the stench of decay and the metallic tang of blood.
They were trapped, their minds teetering on the precipice of madness.
The line between reality and illusion had blurred, leaving them lost in a nightmare realm of whispers and shadows.
Every corner held a new horror, every shadow seemed to writhe with malevolent intent.
Hope, once a flickering candle in the oppressive darkness, sputtered and died, leaving them in the cold embrace of the haunted building.
And within its depths, they knew with chilling certainty they would be forever imprisoned.